Hey folks, welcome to your weekly video. Sorry this is a little bit late. This week your technical challenge is to make instructions. And the instructions that we're going to inform readers about something about how to do is how to cite AI, how to, acknowledge the use of AI in our writing, in our essays. So let's start with what the instruction format is. Then we'll look at the content of our instructions. And then we'll look at more specifically the form. I want this to be in the form of an infographic instruction. Okay, so I know there's a lot of different ideas here this week. So think about it as, we're stacking different ideas. We're writing in the instructions format. We're making them as a visual instructions. And we're giving instructions on how to cite AI. So that's sort of like three different things that I'm asking you to put together, okay? So I know there's a lot going on here, but we can do it. Okay, so folks, the first thing, let's look at, the instruction format. This is a very popular format and form. Basically, the purpose is to explain, to an audience how to do something, how to do a process, how something is done, right? So, putting together IKEA furniture, right? Instructions. Every pharmacy label, right? Every medication has instructions on how to take the medication, right? Simple instructions. Sometimes they're not so simple. So that's what we're doing here. We're using this really popular format for teaching people, right? That's what the instructions is. It's teaching you how to do a task you don't really know, right? It's giving you clear steps on how to do something, on how to accomplish something. Okay, so the instructions. Your instructions should start with an introduction, right? Discuss the specific task or procedure, right? So you're going to explain how to cite AI, right, in your writing. That's the task that we're explaining, right? What does the audience need to know, right? The audience needs to know that, just like Wikipedia or any other text, right, we have to cite AI, right? And that there is a way of doing so, right? Um, Honestly, it took librarians about 7 months to come to a consensus on what we're about to look at. But yeah, OpenAI came out last November. I remember it was like October 22nd. It was right after my birthday. And, right, so librarians had no, didn't know how to cite this very new thing that just came out, right? So it's taken months, right, for this consensus to be born. You want to give a general idea, right, of what the procedure is, right, how to cite AI, what it accomplished, being responsible in our writing. Give an overview of the contents. You might say, after this introduction, we'll move on to general warnings and cautions before we get to, the 5 steps on how to cite AI, right? So you're just going through which of these do you need? Do you need general warnings, caution, and danger notices? These are usually for prescriptions, right? Don't take more than you're supposed to. Putting together furniture, right? Be careful with power drills. You could add this, honestly, because, what's the caution here? If you don't cite and acknowledge AI appropriately and accurately, right, you could be charged with committing plagiarism. Does that make sense? So this falls under, you could violate academic um, sorry, I'm blanking. We have academic honesty policies, right? Academic honesty, right? So, caution, right? You don't want to violate the student handbook. So let's learn how to cite this thing correctly. Do you need any technical background or theory? Any equipments and supplies you might mention in your instructions? Yeah, you definitely need access to the internet and you need a computer, right? So there's a few equipment and supply things that you need. Lastly, right, the meat of this is the discussion of the steps, right? Step 1. So when you get to this, folks, we have a reading on how you cite and acknowledge AI, right? So I'll just sort of walk through that with steps. Here's your reading. You've got text generated by AI, image generated by AI, using AI generated content and assignments, right? So folks, the hidden steps here is a web page, is just like a book with a few chapters, right? The links are the chapters, okay? So let's say I'm focusing my instructions on how to cite text generated by an AI tool, okay? Right? And I think that's what most of us will pick. You can also do image, right? Explain, or you can do both of them, right? But do it at least one of these. So what we know, step one, the prompt needs to be given to readers, right? The prompt that the writer used in their AI search needs to be the first thing that's given in a paragraph, right? Or in the paper, right? What prompt did you feed AI, right? Make me a, Taylor Swift breakup song with Elon Musk, right? Like that's my prompt, to AI. I want them to make this new song. Um, so, right, step one, the prompt needs to be given, right? That was fed to Perplexity or ChatGPT or Bing. Then step two is give the exact quote, right, that the AI search gave you, right? Or, you select the quote that you're using, right? That's step two. Step three, right, you have to cite it, right? If it's ChatGPT, it's OpenAI 2023. If it's Bing, Microsoft 2023, right? So it's it's the owner of the umbrella, right, that owns or incorporates the AI. ChatGPT will be OpenAI, right? One word, comma, 2023, right? So I gave, the 3 steps in my instructions for how to cite AI: the prompt, the quote, and then the identifier, OpenAI 2023. Okay, and if you do an image, it's a slightly different instructions there. So that's the content, right? That's the process that you're explaining to audiences this week with your instructions. And then lastly, you're going to make this in the form of an infographic. And you're like, right, okay, what's an infographic, right? A lot of us have used this, right? So you may be very familiar with this. This may be old hat or pat for you. This may be new for some of us, right? An infographic, think of it as like you're just taking complex information, right, which is what technical writing does, and you're presenting it in an easier, clear format. There's a lot of research that shows that visualizing data is much more effective than text, right? So you're taking text on how to write your instructions, and you're making it, you're combining it with imagery, right? So here's an example of, I found this, here's a Canva infographic. I could make a box on my introduction. I could make a box on warnings. I could make a box on tools needed. And then I could make a box on, here's the 4 steps you need to know when you cite AI, right? Prompt, quote. Does that make sense? So any of these templates are going to be great. I know that Canva and Visme have free templates. Just use the free ones. You can search through the templates through document style. So you could be like, okay, am I writing instructions? Am I making a calendar? Am I making a to-do list? Am I making a newsletter? Does that make sense? So you could search, but just, instructions template, instructions format. So you might do that, right? But I know that a lot of these template styles can also like convey the instructions format. Does that make sense? So that's what we're doing this week. You're making instructions in the infographic style, the infographic format, and the content of your instructions are explaining, right, to readers, explaining to us how to quote or cite AI in an essay or in your writing. Okay, and then finally, so that is under the technical challenge, right, for 10 points. You also have a short discussion I want you to enter. I want to get your take on what you guys think of the controversies swirling around the use of AI at the moment. A lot of artists and writers are suing AI, OpenAI, like Sarah Silverman, right? Saying that and proving, right, that AI was trained, right? The AI models were trained on their work without their consent, right? So OpenAI sucked up Sarah Silverman's work and many others, trained their models on it, and then basically are reselling it back to people, right? You need a subscription to use ChatGPT 4. Um, and right, that's not fair, right? It basically stole and then is selling this tool back to us that stole other people's work to make it work, right? So I think that's a very compelling argument, right? I'm really curious to see how this plays out in the US court system. I'm definitely biased. I have my perspective on this. I do think it's plagiarism. These models would not work. OpenAI would not exist if it was not trained on these people's, you know, work, visual art, right? And then to sell it back to us seems sort of like a slap in the face, right? Um, so and I know like there's a big push to make the internet like a human right that's freely accessible to everyone. So my personal view is okay, right? I do think the internet is a human right. We need it to work. We need it to basically survive in 2023. So maybe, right, these tools should also be free, especially given that they took the internet, which is free, and used it and are trying to sell it back to us in the form of subscription use to ChatGPT. Um, right? Um, Perplexity is actually my favorite AI. Perplexity will cite its sources, right? So we could go on, right, AI right now. I could ask it to um, cite, I could ask it to cite something, right? Where did you get this information? And it will say, I'm sorry, I can't give you my sources, right? I'm sorry for any confusion, right? But I don't have sources for you for where I got this information. Does that make sense? So that this is also problematic with ChatGPT or Bing, right? Bing's AI it basically just skims uh, websites, right? And a lot of its information is coming from websites like Wikipedia. And then ChatGPT 3 is like, I can't even tell you where I'm getting my information from, right? Which is hugely problematic. So this is just another of the controversies around like, okay, would you trust someone that won't tell you where they get their information from? Like I'm not telling you my sources, right? So it's very similar to that. So yeah, we have the discussion and then the technical challenge this week. I hope you find this activity useful. I can't wait to see what we do with this. Okay, folks, as always, email me if you want to meet on Zoom to talk about anything. Just let me know. Bye.